What's up, everyone? Welcome to another fun episode of Isles Talk. I am your host this evening, Paul Kreischer. Gary is out and about. He will be here hopefully when he gets his stuff settled. But joining me this evening is someone I have a tremendous respect for because she is able to do some of the coverage that I used to do, especially around World Junior Championship time. um, I've always enjoyed her tweets. She's very knowledgeable. And just in the 10 minutes of talking with her right now, we're going to get along just fine. So, Nicole Shirman, welcome to Isles Talk.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
So, um, we are going to be covering the Islanders prospects currently in the system. And from there, we'll get into water cooler talk. We'll take your questions. We'll take your comments about certain prospects. And then later on, we'll do my normal stint. We'll take a look at the standings real quick from the percentage perspective. And we'll take your questions about trade rumors. What do you think the team should do moving forward? So on and so forth. So, starting off, Nicole, I wanted you to give me your definition of what a prospect really is. So go ahead.
Sure. So the NHL, and this is the definition I use, they define a prospect as someone who has played less than 25 games in a season and 50 games total and is under the age of 25 and under. So I sort of just try to go by that definition too.
Very cool. And for the ones who have followed me on the draft and the prospects before, I do a little differently. I consider once they're drafted, I usually give them like a 5-year rule. I will go no more than 23. Once they hit 23, before the season starts, they're no longer a prospect. So 17 to 22, 18 to 22. And even if they're in the NHL at a young age, a la Josh Bailey, Beauvillier, Barzell, and now Noah Dobson, I still consider them prospects because it's kind of like the high honor roll. It's like these guys are supposed to hit first line, first pairing, but they're not there yet. And the fans do tend to get a little emotional when the younger players don't hit that peak so soon. And you got to remind them they're only 20, they're only 21. Give them a break. So that's why when I do my prospect rankings, it's a little different from the NHL, but I enjoy this because you and I probably would have different rankings, which is refreshing. I love that. But it's going to give the audience a much broader education on the Islanders prospects in the system. So, Nicole, why don't you get us started off with any prospect you want? There's no rankings here, folks.
Yeah, I decided against that. So starting off, I think we'll start off close to home in Bridgeport. And the prospect everyone's talking about, most improved in my eyes, is Holmstrom. Compared to last season, I mean, he's grown tremendously in all ways. Physically, he's more physical on the puck. You see him along the boards fighting, not as easy to move off the puck. And just like hockey IQ, you see him like thinking plays out, the rink vision. Yesterday, he had a beautiful shootout goal, just like the feet and the hands moving together.
Filthy.
Gorgeous. I mean, these are like the things you see it clicking sort of in his head. And you sort of see that path to the NHL slowly rolling out. So I think especially since he was a bit of a reach, that's really great to see as like a fan and blogger following prospects. You want to see them flourish, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of fans were on me like, what's up with Holmstrom? Why wasn't he playing well? And I'm like, because he's 18 to 19 and he just came over from a different country. And then the kid got to deal with COVID. Not just him, but a lot of other kids had to deal with COVID and shortened seasons. And it's absolutely refreshing is to see him doing exactly what I was hoping he'd be doing now. Because for me, at the age of 20, some things really need to start clicking. and we're both seeing it now out of Holmstrom, and I love that out of him. So, does he remind you of anybody
Okay.
in the NHL
I
or on the
call him
Islanders?
Josh Bailey, who can score.
Atta
That's
girl, atta girl. You're
um,
going to have so many people hating you right now. By the way, folks, this is our first meeting. This is our first meeting. We have not talked before this, and you
Amber,
guys know this. I do this on purpose. Okay? Josh Bailey. Remember that. That's 2 people now. 2.
Josh
Go
Bailey,
for
who
it.
can score. But like that whole the confidence, like clicking, you see that, and that's like the single most important aspect in a prospect.
Yep. Um, yes, this is streaming on Facebook, Twitter, on Isles Talk. It's also streaming on YouTube. So make sure you guys hit all 3 of them there. I'm going to move on to someone else who's also having a career year in Bridgeport, and that's Jakob Skarek. Skarek, for me, very similar to Holmstrom. It looks like the game's coming to him. And despite the Bridgeport roulette of players coming back and forth, trying to help out the Islanders, he's put up some decent numbers now. His goals against average is below 3. His save percentage probably could be better, but he's got a winning record with Bridgeport. And this is the best I've seen him probably in his career as a professional.
Yeah, you sort of really like the same thing with Holmstrom. You see like that growth, the confidence. He's put up a .906 save percentage with Bridgeport, which isn't reflective of his play just because the defense is lacking tremendously. But like a really big improvement I've noticed is when he's playing the puck, much more confident, more sure, no like not as much hesitation as we've seen previously, which we come to expect from European goalies. So that's really nice to see. Technically more sound. Yeah, so you sort of also see that rolling along, improving, even with not much defensive help.
Yeah, I really like his puck control. That really needed some work. And I think he's actually getting down on his pads a little quicker. His timing's much, much better as he's getting used to that speed in the AHL. So very good for Holmstrom so far. Very good for Jakob Skarek. Who else would you like to talk about?
Durando, I guess he's sort of been
Yes, do it.
putting up the assists. Underrated prospect. What can I say? Uh, Assist machine. Also, like very quick minded. You see that hockey IQ. You see him sort of mapping out the rink, the passing lanes. I think there could be an NHL future there. He's been playing with Holmstrom a bunch, so I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yes. Also, on another note, with along with playing with Holmstrom, they've also been playing with both Koivula and Michael Del Cole while they've been down there. So they're getting some real good quality chances. The both of them, Holmstrom and Durando. Again, another career year for Durando. But for me, I just want to see him play as many games as possible. And I think the game, he's fast to begin with. He was fast in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He's getting to that speed now.
Mhm.
I would like to see him play as many games as possible. And if the Islanders make the playoffs, and we'll talk about that later. Um, I really would like to see Durando called up and practicing with the team for as long as the team is there.
Yeah, definitely. I think sort of um, you want to see like more opportunities for the kids. How else are they going to learn? The AHL is one thing; it's close to home. You do get a North American experience, but obviously coming over from the CHL, even the AHL, there's that other level you sort of need to experience because like European prospects have the advantage of playing against men as teenagers before the AHL. By like prospects like Durando, sort of you want to see them get as much NHL experience before it's too late as they can.
And I like what Mike just said there. He's a silky Beauvillier. I agree with that. I need to see a little more sandpaper, though, out of Durando. I need to see a little more sandpaper out of Beauvillier, too, but that's another topic. You give me a little more sandpaper with Durando, that's going to complete his two-way game. And you get him a little more sandpaper, I think his goals goes up because he's going to create more turnovers for himself, and he can fly.
Yeah, just like winning those puck battles that you've seen Holmstrom start to do, you sort of want to translate it that you want to see that translate into Durando's game too.
Okay.
Sure. I see a comment about Bolduc that we should touch on.
Let's
He
do it.
came into the season injured, missed a bunch of time, has pretty much been the seventh defenseman. I do not think he's at 100% just watching his game compared to last season, but he did make like a stunning um, play on a breakaway to stop it, 2 games ago, that reminded me of Pellick a lot. So I think we're sort of seeing like defensive growth, even though the offense isn't coming now. But I think that'll return.
I agree. I really like Bolduc's. I'm sorry, Bodie Wild's game. He just needs again. Bodie Wild needs to come back. But you were talking about Bolduc as well.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
just talking about Bolduc.
Wild. Believe it or not, Wild and Bolduc were both struggling at the beginning of the year, and it's they're not two of the same. I've always had Bolduc as a Mayfield, and what we saw last year was good in terms of the offensive numbers. But I can tell you right now, they want him working on his defensive game.
Mhm.
That's more of his strength. And you guys also have to remember, Nicole is correct. Injured in the beginning of the season, but now he also has his first full season here in the American Hockey League. So they basically told him, go out and play. Do whatever you got to do. Let the game come to you again. And next season, we'll work on your offense, because Bolduc is literally a 3-year package. If he gets his offense earlier on in the start of next season, could he be a call-up? He could be. He could be, but it depends on what he does for the rest of the season on his defensive game, because that's going to be more important.
I mean, since they've been drafted, Bolduc has sort of been offensively minded, and Sal's always been that solid two-way player, which I think fans have gotten a bit mixed up once Sal has been called up. But Sal has always been two-way. You don't really see as much offense. You see some responsibility, and Bolduc's been sort of that offensive defenseman.
So, all right, let me go right into Bodie Wild again, because that's almost two of the same defensemen. Bodie Wild obviously is not playing in North America at the moment. He's still a decent two-way defenseman. He still has a little bit of those ankle issues, but he's been putting up fairly decent numbers over in Sweden, and that's a great place to play if you're not playing anywhere else. Especially learning the two-way game over there. But I agree with what Randy said. He does need to come back over here as soon as possible, because I think the Islanders are going to need him at some point if they're going to be calling him up, which could be sooner rather than later for Bolduc. For me, I'd like to see Bodie Wild a little bit more on the power play. I'd like to see him on a little bit more on the offensive side as well, because he does have the shot. But again, it is what it is with Bodie Wild. Hopefully he comes back in here next year.
Yeah, I mean, rooting obviously for him to do the best, because that's another defenseman you have. My concern has been like vaccination and all that, non-regardless, just about his on-ice plays. In Vastervik, in the Swedish second league, he started out pretty much usually on the first pairing, and now they've dropped him down. So you see the cut down in time on ice, and with that you see a cut down in numbers. He wasn't putting up a lot to start. You saw that sort of come in more of around a month in, but that's a bit concerning, because now he's getting less playing time as is.
Yeah, and for me also, and this is something that my regulars know. I don't worry too much about the numbers, because obviously the American Hockey League is developmental. They're going to tell you what they want you to work on. Don't worry about the numbers. And Bellows, Wallstrom, Dobson, not necessarily Dobson, but definitely Wallstrom and Bellows, they've all said that. It's work on this. Don't worry about the numbers. And again, overseas, it's a different league. It's a different type. So I'm really into the amount of minutes per game that they're getting in, the amount of games that they're playing in, just so that they learn more. For me, it's learning through experience is the bigger one right now. But to hear even that Bodie Wild's numbers are going down is not good.
Definitely.
No, go for it. Who's next?
Oh God. Okay. I know they're a bit over your age range, but we have Van de Hall, we have Parker Witherspoon. Um,
Okay,
they're
go
24.
for it.
Van de Hall's the shootout specialist. He always has been. He started out as a forward. Um, he's he's been on the top pairing. Um, don't know if he ever makes it to the NHL with sort of our pipeline, but he's been. I mean, their defense in general hasn't been great, but he's been doing his job.
Yeah, with Parker, I'm a little surprised the Islanders really haven't called him up. Um, I just he's like you said, he's got that defensive game. I don't know if he would, if someone would actually pluck him up off of waivers, but I thought he would fit the system better at this point than Sebastian Aho. And I liked Aho. Yeah. Um, yeah, he is out of the age range there, but what you basically said was what I was saying a couple of years ago about the kid. I thought he was at least an NHL call up before that. And I thought he had some great training camps as well. He didn't look out of place at all.
Yeah, you see, Hutton was called up because we needed the right-handed defenseman, and not technically a prospect, even though he's a rookie. Um, but I think the fact that he did well and he was solid defensively has sort of cut off a lot of the other defensemen's chances of getting called up because now you have Sallow, you have Aho, and then you have Hutton.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how much longer Hutton's going to be here. I don't know if he's a free agent at the end of this year or next year. You guys can tell us that if he's going to be if Hutton's going to be an unrestricted free agent this year. I think he is. I don't know if he'll be back next year. If he is, if Hutton does come back, I think he's the seventh defenseman next season. There's no spot for him anymore in the American Hockey League. So, um, yeah, that's all good so far. So, do you guys have any comments about the current players we've had so far? Skarek still needs to keep playing. Yes, that's true. Don't worry about Thompson. Can you see? Let's show this one. Can we see Holmstrom getting a call up? Not at this point. And the reason why I say no is that every Islander at this point, save for Pellick, is healthy. Barry Trotz, and we'll get into this later in the show. Barry Trotz is going to run every player to the ground for the next 6 months. That's it. So unless there's another plague of injuries, I don't see Simon Holmstrom coming up. So Gary will be here shortly. So I'm going to move on to someone who has not gotten enough attention. He's kind of like under the radar. Cameron Berg in college. Folks, let me just put this out here now. He's Michael Pekka. And he's a mix between Michael Pekka and J.G. Pageau. He's got a great two-way game. He can go from defensive zone to the offensive zone like there's no tomorrow. He literally brings people in, passes the puck, or shoots it. Like he just brings the opposite team together, and he can create some madness for the opposition. I love his game. He's a freshman, and he's been putting up some solid numbers. So, Nicole, what are your thoughts on Berg?
Sure. So, starting out the draft, obviously I didn't watch him before that. He was Like, everyone's saying he was a reach. The scouting report said he might be better off as a wing. That might play more to his strengths. But watching him, he has a lot of potential. Like you said, that two-way game, the transition especially, you see like that's where he shines. Doesn't hesitate to shoot. That doesn't take away from his passing. He's good at both. Very smart, slightly undersized, nothing crazy, 6'10". Like he has like enough weight on him. Um, all around player.
Yeah, and
He's
again,
sorry.
he's in college. He's going to take some time, but he's putting up some decent numbers going up against guys his own age and a little older. So I'm looking to see how Cameron Berg is going to do sophomore junior year. He's the type of player right now I don't think would finish college. I think the Islanders would offer him a contract before he graduates. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Berg will do.
I mean,
So
yeah, he started on the third line to start the season. Now you see him sort of solidify his place in the top six, which is awesome.
And that's the other thing with college. I don't worry about what line they're on because sometimes colleges still go with that whole seniority thing. So if you're a senior, you're on the top line first, second line, it's dumb, but sometimes that still happens.
Yeah, but Berg sort of broken that mold, which is awesome.
Yes.
At
Yes.
19.
Yep. Very good. So who else you got?
Sure, college. Jeffries,
Yes.
underrated prospect. Very, very smart. You have that passing. You have that high hockey IQ. I don't think he gets talked enough. He gets talked about enough. Just like that skilled, very, very smart player. Merrimack hasn't been great. Hasn't hurt. Like his numbers reflect that. But watching him, you see sort of all of that clicking. You see him sort of doing all the right things.
What I like about Jeffries is that he reminds me, and again, a little bit of a reach, but his style reminds me of Thomas Vanek. This guy used to go around the perimeter and then work his way in. Something similar to Berg, but Berg has a little more explosiveness going into the center. Jeffries is a natural left winger, and Jeffries' shot is very, very good for his age at that college level. And if there's one theme I've seen in the Islanders organization with their prospects, they're not on top teams. They're on middle tier teams, around 500, but they're scoring against teams that are better than them, which is a plus. And Jeffries is no exception. He scored, I believe, against Boston University. He's gone up against Maine. He's scored against Boston. He's scoring against some of those top teams in Hockey East. So there's a lot of potential for Jeffries. Some of these kids, I think him and Berg, they both have NHL size already. They just got to apply what they're learning and get their size together. And my goodness, look out.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. I
Okay.
see a comment about Ishakov. So he started off very well. He was playing with Adler Mannheim, so in the German league and the Champions Hockey League. Amazing starts of the season. Goes and gets injured, broken foot, I believe, out for a long time. Just came back a few weeks ago. Started putting up points again. I believe yesterday was his first game without a point since he came back. Undersized, and that's sort of the biggest strike against him. They call him Mr. Magic just because of how skilled he is. He is an insanely skilled center. Our rights to him end in August, so we have to get him signed by then, and I'm pushing for that.
Yeah, and the reason why his rights end is because he originally started off in Connecticut. So once you start in college, you got that 4-year window, and that's basically where we're at now. I always had Ishakov as the AHL version of Matt Barzal, with again a little more sandpaper. He likes to crash the net. He likes to get in there. Not to bring up Marchand, but he's like a center type Marchand, get in your face. Yeah, he is easy to knock down. Let's not lie. But he puts up points everywhere he goes. Will he come to the Islanders? I would really love to see him match up next year with William Defour and Simon Holmstrom. I would love to see that line next year. I think that would be an awesome line to see. So let's get into William Defour. Look at the
Blowing,
grin. I
blowing.
love the grin.
This gives me joy. I love talking about prospects. Blowing up the queue. I mean, so I will say as a disclaimer, offensive numbers are always inflated when you're talking about the queue a lot, but he's been amazing. He made so 5th round pick, was invited to Canada's training camp for the World Juniors,
Yes.
which as itself is pretty insane, especially since he was an overager and they tend to go younger. Doing
some kid by Bernard. you're gonna lose to him. That's not bad.
Right. So goal scorer, assists, really like smart plays. He likes to make these insane passes across the rink, which I love to see. It's pretty cool. And by all accounts, like a really great guy off the ice. Supported his mom through her cancer battle. So you of course you always want to see character off the ice from these guys too.
William Defour, to me, I don't know if I want to put him at like a Michael Del Cole or a Kyle Oposo. He's a little bit of both, but he needs that centerman to get him the puck. But when he gets the puck, he shoots very low for a big guy, and I think that's something Kyle really he did well sometimes. But again, I agree with you. The numbers in the queue, I don't want to say misleading. He's on a decent team. I really need to see what he does in the playoffs. For me, when I'm watching the college hockey, again, the numbers are good during the regular season, but I need to see playoffs. I need to see them when the pressure's on. It's those small intangibles. I like what I've seen from the kids so far. For a 5th or 6th round pick, it's been phenomenal. Do I think he'll be in Bridgeport next season? Yeah, I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But if Ishkakov can show up along with Dufour, I'm excited for Bridgeport.
Yeah, I mean, so just for comparison, last year he put up 29 points in 23 games. This year, 47 points in 28 games.
And that's what happens when you're put on a good team.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple of years that he was on were, quite frankly, wretched. So now he's put on a good team, and look what happens. He's on a good, good things happen when you're on a good team. And that's why I put him on with that Michael Del. That's why I compared him to Michael Del Cole. When Michael Del Cole's on a decent team, Michael Del Cole does better. So we'll see what we're going to get from him in a little bit. What's that?
I said hopefully he'll make the NHL.
Yes. I still think Del Cole's going to be in the NHL. I think some team's going to pluck him up, or I think he'll be the 13th forward. I think he'll be a 13th forward for the Islanders next year. Nicole Gary Nicole. That's it. Don't talk to him.
Hey, Nicole, how are you?
To him. Yeah, don't bother.
Thanks, Paul.
Moving on here. Someone brought up Junkrantz. Junkrantz to me is Sean Bergenheim. Sean Bergenheim was a feisty 3rd or 4th liner who could put the puck in, and that's who Junkrantz reminds me of. Good guy, good size, learning the game. He was also one of the youngest players in the draft back in 2020. So picked 90th overall, left winger, has had an okay season, but again, another theme that I've seen from all the players, the prospects, they're playing well against kids their own ages right now, and that's what you want. Lundkrantz is no exception. So, Nicole, do you have anything on him?
Yeah, so he played most of the season in the U20 league, so he was playing
Yes.
against his own age. Now he's playing in the Swedish second league.
Good.
He's played 12 games there on loan. 4 points, two goals, just. But so now he's back to playing against men essentially.
And that's why you see some production come down. It's just the transition that some of these players have to go through. It's the maturity thing. Again, that's why I don't really worry about the numbers. It's just like, can they handle the guys? They're doing well against players their own age. So, I like them. At some point, we'll see them, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Anybody else you'd like to pick on?
Sure. Let's. We were talking about Defour, so let's stay in the CHL. Tristan Lennox.
Ha! Yeah, you got beef. You got beef with Saginaw for not trading him. Don't think I didn't see that tweet.
Okay. He deserved to go to a team that would make the playoffs. He's a top 5 goaltender in the league, playing on a team that lost pretty much all of their firepower because they were drafted away, and now they're in the NHL. He's really good. But so sort of like we saw Sorokin stand on his head and get no help. That's what's happening right now. So there's a really good goalie with not getting much help from his skaters.
I would normally agree with trading Lennox to a different team, except for the fact that he's probably going to be in the Ontario Hockey League next year. So as someone who likes to see the development, I'd like to see him on a bad team and see as much rubber as possible to get that consistency going. I'm also a former goalie, so I understand why he wasn't traded, but I understand your point of he's this good. Why didn't anybody take him?
I was expecting him to go to the Storm, who need goaltending.
Yes. Yes.
I never realized you were a goaltender. Now I know why you're really so weird.
Of course.
Oh,
How did you not know?
I know. I should have known by your email address. Duh.
Yeah, dummy.
What?
But anyway, if Saginaw does not get any better during the offseason or whatnot, Tristan Lennox will absolutely get traded. He'll make a run at a Memorial Cup, and everything that Nicole just said probably will happen next year, and she's going to be spot on. Perfect. So Tristan Lennox was perfectly described.
Yeah, so from a source who spoke to one of our scouts, the Islanders expect him to be NHL ready in 5 years, which is awesome to hear, and you can never have enough good goalies. What else?
Amen.
I mean, while we're talking about like character off ice, he runs his own foundation, a charity, in honor of his grandpa, which is pretty awesome. Yeah.
Excellent. I'm gonna do we want to do one more goalie? I actually forgot one more college player. I'm gonna go back real quick, and I'm gonna hit Christian Kreisier. Christian Kreisier for me is Adam Pellick at the college level. Him, like William Defour, was on Team USA's final cuts his last 2 years at the World Junior Championships for 18-year-olds, for 20-year-olds. He just missed the cut. He's a steady defenseman. He's a 5'6" defenseman. Don't worry about the points. He's not there to score goals. He's there to literally play defense. He's very good at blocking shots. He fits into that Barry Trotz mold, and he's honestly, if they were to take him out of college now, Kreisier would be someone I would put in the playoffs strictly for penalty killing and blocking shots, because that's exactly what he would be doing.
Yeah, I mean, all I have to add is that he was a 7th round pick.
7th round pick. And again, Anders Lee was a 6th round pick because they already made their decisions to go to college. That's the reason why some of these players in college, they get picked so low.
And a lot of
unless
people
you're
probably would go play football, but luckily
yes,
not.
yes. Oh, I'm gonna go with one more goalie, but then I think you can give me one more college player out of Notre Dame, Nicole.
Okay, Notre Dame. So we have Pavanka. Just came back, injured, Achilles injury.
No.
Yeah, right. Dynamic center. Oh wait, am I? Yes, dynamic center. He is wearing a C. 2 games back, I believe he has a point or two. So many
Nope, you're right.
prospects.
You're right in there. Yep.
Okay. I've been following as best as I can. And like, this is a creative center, skilled, but he has sort of that physicality. And the comments are always sort of you're going to see that like creativity come out, and his playmaking is really going to help the team. So sort of having those dynamic centers, it's really important going forward.
With Pavanka, you're gonna get Casey Zizekas, Claude Lapointe, and there was somebody else I had him. Who else did I had him with? Like he's that type of centerman. Oh, Jeremy Collidan. You know, these guys were all creative. They knew how to body check. Pavanka can do the same thing. I think he starts off in Bridgeport first, and I think if there's an injury to Casey, maybe even by next year, depending on the case.
Let me go.
Oh, okay.
No injuries.
Pavanka could go in. Yes, Pavanka could go in. I don't think he'll miss a beat. So we're gonna hit one more. We're gonna hit one more goalie here, and that's our big boy. Go ahead. You want to take him? Go ahead.
6'8", Henrik Tikkanen. I have never seen a more hot and cold goalie in my life. Going into every game, you don't know what you're gonna get. It's hard to describe. So he can either like put up postal shutout or put up a .760 save percentage. It's insanity.
Yeah, that's pretty much perfect. But I was told by a scout, if Lou picks up this guy, it's for a reason. And if it's from what I've been told, if they can get his consistency, it's exactly like you said. He's lights out.
It's sort of I've been watching him. He's also in the Swedish second league. He relies on his size a lot, and you see his technique suffer because of that. So I think if he can sort of get away from that mentality of I'm so big I can cover the net, and you see him sort of working on his technique and like lateral movement, how well he can like sort of get himself against the net. You can see a lot of improvement.
Harry, that kind of sounded like Anders Nielsen.
Mm.
Anders Nielsen just used his body. He didn't have a lot of big technique or anything else like that. He was just using the body with that.
No, there wasn't a lot of God-given talent in the beginning with him.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Don't be grumpy tonight.
No, I'm not. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So like he's Tikkanen is sort of like the opposite of like Sorokin and Lennox to me, because these are goalies who have a lot of like natural athleticism and talent, and you have Tikkanen who's relying on his size a lot. So you sort of want that to change.
So I don't think. I mean, I can touch on Rajaniemi a little bit. I have to admit, Rajaniemi to me, he's Travis Hamonic. He's a good solid. He can be a good solid two-way guy, defenseman. He's got a good booming shot. Wouldn't mind to see him on the power play a little bit more. I was a little disappointed that he didn't make the World Junior Championships for Team Finland this year, because he had been in the past. But again, growing pains from what I was told, and that's the case with Rajaniemi.
Yeah, so he did play for them in the Four Nations tournament.
Yes, he did.
In November. So I was also surprised he didn't make Team Finland. But worked out, and then they didn't have to travel for a canceled tournament. So I'm not going to complain.
So I think we've covered all of the kids, literally all the kids. I'm gonna go real quick because again, Nicole and I we have our differences as to what a prospect really is, and that's cool. I love that. I do want to talk about Noah Dobson real quick. For those of you that feel Noah Dobson is not a prospect, you're wrong. Aha. Noah Dobson is eventually going to be a first pairing defenseman for the Islanders. I think what you're witnessing right now is growth, confidence, and this is part of the whole prospect thing for me. It's yes, the expectations are high for this gentleman, for this kid. Can he reach it? That's part of being a prospect, reaching your expectations. Granted, some of them take a little bit longer, but right now, Noah Dobson is blossoming in front of our eyes. And Gary, I'm going to let you comment on Dobson because I will give credit where credit is due. Gary has been praising Dobson ever since he saw him in the queue, and quote, a man amongst boys. And I want to give Gary a few moments here with Dobson.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. You need a break. I know you worked hard today. This is the I'm finally out of COVID feeling right now. So I'm still getting my sea legs, if you will. But as Paul said, I really just enjoyed watching this kid play. And when you saw the two World Junior the two Memorial Cups that he played in, he was definitely the best person on the ice, bar none, hands down, no question. And I think you and I, Paul, probably talked on one of my radio shows, and I said it was going to be at least a good solid 2 years before this kid was going to turn out. And it's basically, I think, right on trajectory, from where we were talking about when he was in his rookie season, that it was going to take something or someone to really work with him. And Andy did such a great job when he started. But, I mean, obviously, the last 10 games, seeing him paired with Big Z, I think that's made a tremendous amount of difference. I mean, the just looking at the continents as you see replays or whatever that's going on, you just see a guy that just wants to just dig and do something. So much evident in the last 10 games than it's been all along. And just like this organization, confidence means a lot. And right, as we know, the Islanders had such a tough time having that confidence in November and December, the beginning of December. But the end of December, the beginning of January, you see it starting to ooze out. And that's been so much prevalent with Noah in the last 10 games. And I'm not going to turn around and say, is he going to win a Calder in the next 24 months? I'm not going to even go that far. But you see, it's like a good it's like a good sine curve. You're just coming, you got from the peak of the bottom of the nadir, and it's now starting to work its way up and up and up. And all you can hope is that that trend will continue. And I'm very, very pleased with his play, and it's going to make a lot of decisions a lot more easier now that Noah is pretty much, you can say, an established player. But yes, you're absolutely right, Paul. He is still a prospect because there is so much of a sky is the unlimited kind of a situation with him. And you can just, as an Islander fan, you can only hope that's just going to continue and grow and grow and grow.
Nicole, give me your thoughts on Noah.
Sure. So I said this at the start of the season. He does best with responsibility. He needs to know that the pairing is sort of in his hands. And we saw this when he stepped up in November, late November, with half the team out on COVID protocol. That's when we really saw sort of this growth and the offensive performance sort of start to blossom and flourish. So I'd like to see sort of more trust. We see him like more trust in the power play. I think that's the reason we've been clicking. He's a great quarterback. He's third on the team in points, which is really impressive from a defenseman. Behind Wallstrom and Barzey, so the kids have been doing well. But sort of, I'd like to see either him with Pellick or him with Sallow instead of sort of relying on like the veteran presence of Charon Green. I want him to have that responsibility because that's when he shines.
And we're going to do a perfect segue. Robin Sallow. Just to put simply, Nicole, Gary and I have said it on this show. We've said it on Gary's show. We still feel that Robin Sallow is going to be the third defenseman with Noah Dobson starting next year at some point, and they're going to be a pair. They're going to be that second pair. So, give us your thoughts on Robin Sallow.
So, like I said, that's a smart two-way player, responsible. I think we've all noticed this. He has a very unique, powerful skating stride, like the crossovers. So that's like what I'm always drawn to his skating. He can shoot well. He doesn't hesitate a lot. I like in Finland and Sweden, you saw him use the body. So I think that'll come like with time in the NHL too. But this, I see him as like in the next few seasons, he's going to be on the second pair.
I agree with that. I mean, to me, he reminds. Sorry, Paul. To me, I mean, he's wearing the perfect number 2 because, we for 7 years we saw Nick Leddy with his wonderful skating stride, and all of a sudden one night I'm at the game, and me, I have seats behind the goal, and I'm watching Sallow go up the ice, and I'm like, oh, Leddy's doing really good. Wait a minute, that's not Leddy, and I'm like correcting myself because the strides are very similar, and it's. I love when defensemen can skate up and down the ice, and it almost looks like they're putting no effort in it. They are, but it almost looks like they're just going in slow motion, and that's what Sallow looks like to me. And I think with everything else, all the other intangibles, they've got time to work it in. But I can definitely see Sallow and Dobson being an unbelievable pair.
Agreed. Do we have to touch on Wallstrom?
You and I, that's been a big conversation talk over the past 18 months,
give or take.
Give or take.
Again, people have asked me, why isn't Wallstrom on the first line? There are 2 reasons. Number 1, well, there's 3 reasons. Number 1, he's doing very well on a third line. Number 2, he's still learning the two-way game and just may not be ready to get, Trotz's full trust in him yet. And third, and more importantly, Matt Barzal still wants Josh Bailey on his line. There's really nothing more to say at the moment. Matt Barzal gets what he wants at this point, and he works well with, Anders Lee and Josh Bailey at the moment. If things really go south, okay, I could see Wallstrom getting an opportunity to show what he can do on the top 6, maybe even the top 3, but we're not at that stage yet.
No, I would say by game 65 would probably be the litmus test. If they're, with 17 games left, if there's an absolute, like maybe 2 or 3% possibility they're going to make the playoffs, maybe then you make the experiment.
Unleash the kids. Unleash them. Let them go. Let the reins go a little bit. But yeah, Nicole, give me your thoughts on Wallstrom.
Yeah, I mean, sort of, offensively, he's there. You want to see that defensive game develop, especially if you're going to be playing under Trotz. Power play, he's there. You have that lethal shot. I think probably he has the hardest shot out of any forward. It's there. He's there. He knows where to go. He's smart. He doesn't just slap shot. You see, he's been putting in more work with his wrister, which is good to see. I do I want to see in general just more of the kids play. if we're not making the playoffs, and Lou and Trots know that, I'd like to see some call-ups, see them get some time. Like at that point, what you have to lose? Let them sort of get adjusted with no pressure. But Wallstrom's, you see the growth, you see everything you want. So he's like hitting all of the check marks on the checklist, like in the time you'd want him to. Everything's going as planned, pretty much.
Now, how would you guys feel of a future line of Kiefer Bellows, Brock Nelson, and Oliver Wahlstrom?
You have 3 guys who can shoot. I like Nelson is a center who can score. He doesn't hesitate to shoot. He's not just a playmaker. He scores. So that's going to be a scoring line. I'm not sure if for that reason, like Trotz might try to sort of space out scoring, because like when you have the Killer Bees line, you have Bailey who's sort of acting as the playmaker on top of Nelson. But if you need scoring, you have that always like sort of in the toolbox.
There you go. That's just something to think about. We have saved the last prospect for last.
I want to touch on Lucas.
Oh, go for it.
So, I call him the blonde Clutterbuck Jr.
Yes.
He reminds
Totally agree.
me a lot of Clutterbuck. He's a grinder who can shoot well, very strong. You want to see some improvement with his skating, but this is sort of a role player who can score. He's gritty. He's an enforcer if you need him to be. He played for Finland in the Four Nations tournament, got in a fight, broke his nose. That's the sort of player he is. He will stand up for you against the United States during the summer. Last puck drop, gloves come off, jumps on an American. You love to see that. That's an Islander. That's the future of the identity line. So he was drafted in 2021. I think he's underrated. A lot of people don't know about him, but this is like the future of our fourth line.
Yeah, I put him in that Steve Webb, Cal Clutterbuck with a better shot. Absolutely. He would turn into an Islander fan favorite in probably a game. As soon as he just displayed who he was, the fans would go absolutely nuts over him. That's 100% perfect, Nicole.
I call him murder.
Spot on. So we have saved the best one for last. I'm going to let Nicole take care of this one. Nicole, and in all honesty, in terms of prospects, like true prospects, he would be my number one.
Mm-hmm. No debate.
He is my number one at this point. Putting the professionals aside for the moment, this next player is definitely number one on my list. He's part of my core. He's my core of 3. I'm going to put him at center with Wahlstrom at right wing and Dobson at defense. That's my hope. I hope he sticks around. I hope he's long enough for that. Nicole, give us the number one.
Atu. As everyone knows, I am a fan. What to say? Picked 52nd because he had an off year. So 30 teams, passed him over. Some did it twice. And we, so that long story goes back to his team, Karpat, not playing him. So to start the season, he had a few games with them. He was scratched for more games than he played. But when he did play, average was 11 minutes, 25 seconds on ice. He gets loaned to Jokerit, who aren't as good on paper, but he's there. He's on the second line every game. He's getting over 19 minutes every game. He's scoring. He's assisting. He's playing in all situations. He's on the power play. He's on the penalty kill. He's trusted. And he's over a point per game.
And he, like every other Islander prospect, is on a team that's a little shaky, but they're producing numbers against some of the teams that are better. So and that's what you want to see.
They just played Karpov their last game, and he assisted. He had 2 assists. One of them was on the overtime winner, which is like universal karma. Made me very happy.
And he did make, let's reiterate this, he did make Team Finland this year. But due to COVID, he wasn't allowed back. And, that ended up ruining the World Junior Championships anyway. But he did make it on the team.
While we're on that topic of discussion, so he could always make the World Juniors are postponed, not canceled. So he could technically still play for Finland, depending on the timing. There's talk about him potentially going to the Olympics, depending on whether Finland wants to go with some younger players. Who knows? But I did see a question about when he should come to Bridgeport. The regular season ends in late March. Don't know if they'll make the playoffs. They might. But he did say for sure he's not doing his mandatory 6 months of military service this year. So if they're not in the playoffs, I expect him to be in Bridgeport for around a month in spring.
Yeah, and I believe he's still going to be 19 when the season actually starts. So he's going to have one more year in Finland anyway. But again, I don't mind that because the AHL rules, you have to be 20 years old.
You have to be 20.
Wait, I'm missing something. Wait.
Okay.
AHL?
In order
the
to be
AHL.
AHL, yeah, you have to be at least 20 years of age.
At the start of the season.
At the start of the season. You could be called. You could bring in. You can come in March for a late call up, but
yes.
Sorry, but for an October start, you have to be 20 years of age.
Unless Lou found a loophole.
Okay, I think.
Yeah, you never know with that.
But I had, while Nicole's looking that up, I have always, since he was drafted, I had him pegged for a Franz Nielsen type of style with a goal scorer's potential. Like all those goals that Franz Nielsen scored on the shootout, they're all going to count with Ratu.
Mm-hmm.
I think this kid probably, as a ceiling, I wouldn't mind seeing him replace Brock Nelson at some point as a second line center. That's where we all had Franz Nielsen going anyway as a potential. And even though he did it, we all felt Franz maybe should have been a third line center instead of the second. I think Ratu could really be a second line center and bring out all those qualities that Nicole just said. I really do like his potential now. And I like the fact that he's getting more minutes playing and more games getting played.
It's kind of like a little dig to his old team, because the talent is. We even saw it the couple of games he was here. You could see the talent. You could see the potential that's there. But why these other teams were holding him back.
She's got a smile.
That's for CHL players, so he would be eligible since he does not have a CHL contract.
Oh, that's true. That's why Holmstrom showed up early.
I was confused.
Right.
I know European players can do it. That's for CHL
That's
players.
Right.
I'm like, I'm not going crazy. I know.
No.
We're not
if anybody's
worthy.
going crazy
We're
first,
not worthy.
If anybody's going crazy first, it's Gary. Then it's just me later on.
You gave me a heart attack. I'm like, I expect Ratu to be in Connecticut.
No, don't worry about it.
He'll be there.
Well, here's the next question then. Will the Islanders bring him over? Or are they going to give him another shot in Finland to get the playing time?
Okay, so he said he's prepared for both. He's prepared to either play in North America or go back on a loan if that's what happens. But Chris Lamorello did say that they're looking to bring him over. So we'll see how that pans out.
But doesn't he still have to do his military service?
He has until 26.
Oh, age 26.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we'll see what happens. That's, you bring in Ishkakov, you bring in Ratu, you bring in Holmstrom, you bring in Defour. Good Lord. I kind of like that Bridgeport, that Bridgeport scene heading into next season. So that's it. Unless Nicole's got something else on Ratu.
I think that's
No pressure.
No
No.
pressure at all.
Oh God. I don't know. So I like going off interviews. I just want to say revenge tour. He's always. I do think you sort of have more of a drive just because he dropped solo, and in his interviews he always does sort of talk about that. And I think he's sort of see a lot of loyalty to the Islanders, even though he hasn't really played for us. Because of that, because he always mentions, like the Islanders took a chance on me when no one would. So going forward, that's always nice to have in our back pocket.
Cool. Kind of like Oliver Wahlstrom.
What a great draft year. Meanwhile, the Rangers are enjoying watching their pick in the KHL.
Yes, they are. So, all right, folks, at this time, it's water cooler talk time. This is where we'll take your questions on the rumors. What do you think the team should do at the, during the season? Questions, comments, concerns, have at it. We'll let these guys get it together if they're still here. There is something I will bring up that I normally do, which is the standings. And I was talking to Gary about this a little while back. For those of you who follow the show, I always play the percentages. I don't do the regular point standings. That's to create drama. That's fine. That's what it's there for. But I try to take the drama out. Unfortunately, there's a lot of drama for the Islanders in this case. When I see a point pace like this currently, my nerd moment, it's like staring into the Matrix. I see what the heck's going on here. I have never seen this in the 10 years I've been playing the pace. Carolina's on pace for 124 points after 33 games. That's normal. Okay. The Panthers are on pace for 119. The Leafs are on pace for 117. The Rangers are on pace for 114. Tampa's on pace for 113. That's normal. The Capitals are on pace for 112. The Penguins are on pace for 109. We're talking the top 7 teams in the Eastern Conference on pace for basically 110 points or more after 35 games. Folks, that's unheard of. I've seen teams, going down to like the top 12, with 100-point pace after like 20, 25 games. That's normal. Carolina's standings right now is fairly normal. Tampa's normal. Even Boston at 101 is normal for this time of year. But guys, I have never seen 1 through 7, and you need a minimum 110-point pace through almost 40 games. That's unheard of. That's
insane.
That's like moving the bell curve way over to the right. Like, this is so front loaded. I'm concerned that the Islanders, there's just too much space, for the Islanders to actually try to catch up. But at the same time, I'm waiting to see the rug get pulled from some of these other teams here. I can't see the Rangers keeping pace for 114 points. I can't see the Leafs doing 117. I can't see the Pens doing 109. I don't care what Pens fans think, okay? They've been great during the regular season, and they're done by the playoffs. They get old and tired. But look at where we're at. I know a lot of people are asking about trades. I'm saying why? If the spread is so far apart at this point, why are we going to make a trade now if we can't catch up to anybody?
Just going from like a business perspective, you do not trade from a point of desperation. You're trading at a disadvantage, and other teams will take advantage of that. They know you're desperate. You do not need to do that. You're going to regret it.
And somebody who's in charge isn't that kind of a person anyway. So that's not going to happen, despite all the video game quarterbacks out there that are saying that we should do this and do that and do that and do that.
And I'm gonna give, we're gonna forgive Mike, on the last name, but it's Chitrin. He's close. Art Staple came out with that article about Chitrin, but it was going to have to give up Sallow, Beauvillier, and a first round pick.
And Raw too.
Go
And
ahead.
Ratu.
Oh, and Ratu?
Yeah.
And Ratu.
Why were you? So I like if we're gonna trade for anyone to try to put us over the hump, I don't think a defenseman is going to do that. You need a scorer. Otherwise, you're trading away a huge package to stay essentially in the same place, making the playoffs, maybe not getting the cup.
Well. First off, let's help out some of the fans who want Chitrin. I've been given the impression that the Islanders aren't making a trade anytime soon.
No.
And that includes Chitrin.
I like to hear that.
Yeah. It's not happening. It's not. As a matter of fact, I've been told, or at least let's put it this way, I've been given the impression that the Islanders have no plans to make any trades anytime soon. I understand the reasoning for Chitrin, but right now, Lou's not going to make a trade out of a disadvantage because he's this far away. At the same token, this second half of the season, I'm waiting for the drama to happen. I'm waiting for some of these teams to finally come down to earth. And yes, the Islanders do have to do some winning here, but I really, and again, this is the sadistic side of me. I want to see some of these teams get absolutely miserable in the second half of the season. I want to see losing streaks. I want to see inconsistencies. I want to see some of these teams fall. I really want to know where the Islanders are going to be. And I don't think Chitrin is going to help them with that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Nicole.
I mean, we sort of saw the rug be pulled out from under the Oilers. And I think we're going to see sort of that trend start popping up around the league because some of these streaks just aren't sustainable. And if we do make the playoffs, great. If we don't, you use your cap space to an advantage. Lou traded Boychuk away for a reason. If you make the playoffs, you have cap space to take someone on. If you don't, you have cap space to act as a middleman, take on a percentage of someone's contract in exchange for picks. And especially in a draft like this, which a great draft class, picks are a hot commodity. You never know what gems you might find in the later rounds.
I'm gonna help Randy here. Randy's half right. It won't have to cost us Wallstrom. It would have to cost us Dobson. Okay, and this is through every trade, and thank God Gary's here because he'll help me confirm this.
Sorry, I just lost connection.
What a shame. Anyway,
Bite me.
When other teams call to make trades, the first two players, now it used to be Sorokin, we'll take him out, but it's still Dobson and Wallstrom as their request. Right.
The Habs still want him.
Right. Why would they want Robin Sallow? Someone who just has played, 20 North American games? And you're going to ask for a streaky scorer and Beauvillier back for a kid who's literally a top 3 on a bad team? Plus a first-round pick? It for me, it doesn't make sense. If you're if you're Arizona, and you got a possibility of going to, say, Quebec by next year, you're asking for Beauvillier, you're asking for Dobson, you're asking for Durando. You may even ask for Defour while you're at it. You want that French-Canadian, you want that French-Canadian connection up there and the first-round pick going back up to Quebec. You don't want what-ifs. I don't think Phoenix is going to, just give this kid away.
Losing Dobson for him does not make the team better at this point. You are left with the same hole, and that's someone who can score. Dobson is scoring right now. What is it fixing? I do not understand the mentality of wanting this trade, especially if it's going to cost up. You're not fixing anything. This is a trade that either hurts you or keeps you in like this weird sort of middle ground. It makes no sense.
All right, we're going to play nice here. I like Mark's question. If the Isles are out in February or March, which is looking likely, do the Isles sell and who would be on the block? Gary, I'll let you go first. I love doing this to him.
Yeah, I know. Pain in the ass. I don't know. I'm truthfully, I'm on the fence. I don't know if well, he's probably thinking because I'm not going to say the word Bailey.
Ha! Your wife will kill you.
Yeah, well, right now she's in so much pain right now. I think she would kill anything now that moves.
Fair enough.
But I mean that would be the popular opinion across most of your audience and most Islander Facebook message boards all over the place. I'm trying to think
All
of
right.
who.
All right, I'll play. We'll have a little fun with the comments here. Stro thinks Varley. Go ahead, Nicole.
Wait, okay, so I see right under that, you see Edmonton. You see now Varley has a 16-team no trade list, and I can pretty much guarantee you all of Canada is on that list. Now, if he really wants to be sadistic, he will put every playoff team on that list if we're out of the playoffs, and we will be stuck. Hopefully he's not sadistic. We will see.
So Varley does not want to go to Edmonton. That's interesting.
He lives in
Spit
Texas.
It out, honey.
He lives in Texas. I know straight from his mouth, from a friend that he was told he would be on the trading block this coming July. So he could have gotten traded during this offseason. Obviously, he did not. You have to realize all of like these proposed trades. He can pretty much veto any of them with one list. So you have this needs to be a very specific team to go to. And he lives in the South, so it would have to be probably there.
Probably. All right, let's go. Clutterbuck.
Yeah.
Clutterbuck tradable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could be.
You trade him. If you want, you re-sign him in the offseason. He'll be a UFA. You don't bring him back. You sign Parise. He's your 4 left wing.
Okay, I'm going to go here. Thomas Boyle. Dobson is an RFA this summer. Does he get a bridge deal or do you lock him up 8 years? I think you're going to go a solid 5 or 6 on Dobson. I don't think you have to go 8.
You don't have to, and you don't have to bridge. Yeah.
You don't have to bridge him. I think there's they can be a fair deal done for 6 years.
And we have the cap space. We signed Pellick already. We don't have to worry about him. Lou can sort of go out and not have to worry about much more than the RFAs.
And I think that's the other reason why we're not going after Chetron. We're going to have to pay Noah Dobson a little bit. And at some point, Robin Sallow. I still think they have a really good feeling or they like what they see out of Robin Sallow. And I don't think they're in any pressure whatsoever to make that kind of trade. Let's have some fun here. Bye-bye, Parisi and Chara.
Yeah, technically.
I'm going to say you could, but I think that'll be up to them. If they want to stay, Lou will keep them. If they want to go, they'll go.
Yeah.
It might come down to between Clutterbuck and Parise. Whoever you send is the one that's not coming back next season.
No.
Sure.
No.
Sure. Are you yelling at your cat again?
Yeah, she's going after my. She's going after my milk.
I have a cat. Where's the cat?
I got 4 of them now. Well, she just ran. She just ran. She stuck her head in my milk.
Where he was hiding.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Good thing I already had the chocolate chip cookies, so we're good.
Boy. All right. So yeah, Chitrin is out. I don't know about that.
No one's taking on Palmieri.
I don't think he was really.
Money. It's going to cost too much.
Yeah. I mean, if Lou made a call over the summer, okay, great. But Lou makes calls every day to every team. So Palmieri, I'm going to go too soon. Palmieri's too soon. I still think there's some kind of a future for him somewhere. but we'll see what happens. I just don't think Palmieri gets traded yet. There's no value.
People think I say this as a joke. He needs his beard. I think it's some sort of mental, like psychological thing. He performs better when he has a beard on his face. Lou needs to make one exception. He grows the beard. We start getting goals. Just please, let's try it.
Yep. What's the story with Palmieri? 1 goal in 20 plus games. Is his declining happening already? Lad 2.0. I made a comment on Gary's show a couple of weeks ago. I still think Palmieri was playing with some kind of injury, but they didn't let him off because of COVID and everything else going on like that. When Palmieri comes back, well, let me throw this question out. With Bellows doing as well as he has been, because we really haven't talked about Bellows yet. With Bellows doing as well as he has, does he play over Kyle Palmieri?
I tweeted this out today, and I said he should, but I don't know if Trotz will do that.
Yeah. I mean, he deserves it. And Trotz has been giving him the minutes that I think he's been, needing. But, I think it's going to be, I think Palmieri will get the first couple of games, and if something happens, then maybe they'll change their mind or whatever and switch. But, Bellows has definitely deserved his ice time.
I agree with both of you. For me, Palmieri has to be back and ready 100%. If he's not 100%, put Bellows in. But if Palmieri's ready to go 100%, put Palmieri back in. Gary, I wholeheartedly agree. Give him a couple of games to show what he can do, and you go from there. Wallstrom playing more minutes than Palmieri and Bailey. I don't know. Again, Palmieri, it's hit or miss. But Bailey, he's not going to play more minutes than Bailey at the moment.
Because Bailey's on the first line. Just bottom line.
Yeah.
That's not, the player, not the situation. As you said, it's what Barzy wants.
And Wallstrom's been succeeding where, on that third line. Why are you going to mess up with the thing?
As you said, one of your three reasons was the two-way play. I will admit, in the last few games, his two-way play has definitely improved. There's no question about it. Is it up to the level where he deserves first-line minutes? No. Sorry, people here. As much as I like Wallstrom's offense and what he's doing, there's good chemistry down below. You don't necessarily have to be a first-line player to have chemistry and get points on the board. You don't have to be a first-line player to get 25, 30 goals in a season. You've just got to be able to show the ability. And I think right now, he's in the perfect position at this point.
Nicole, what do you think?
I did at the beginning of the season. I said I think we see Wallstrom get a shot in the second half of the season. I think that happens in the next few months. I do think we sort of see that, especially if we're not making the playoffs. You see Trotz want to give him that shot when you sort of don't have the pressure. And I think he deserves it. You can't, not everyone's going to be a perfect two-way player. Wallstrom is a sniper. So, I understand he's not, a perfect fit for the system, but sometimes you have to make adjustments. So I think he'll deserve it. And I think if you put him with Barzal, you'll see more offense come through.
Excellent. I think we covered everything, guys.
I think so.
We're gonna get the same questions over and over again. Nicole, I want to thank you for coming on. This was refreshing. This was awesome. It's nice to get a different perspective, and yet we were pretty much on the same page with most of the prospects, and I really enjoyed you coming on. Where can they find your work? Where can they find you on social media?
Sure. So I'm at Nicole F. Shirman that's Shirman with an I on Twitter. I tweet a lot. I write for Eyes on Isles and Isles Fix, so all of my work's pretty much on there.
Gary, where are they going to find
Nicole,
you?
do you know the story, the full story about Eyes on Isles?
The full story.
Yeah, you're talking to the person that started it.
Not me.
Oh,
Me.
oh, hello.
Yeah, a long time ago, myself and John, my co-host on the radio. For those that don't know, John Panarese is blind. Hence, that's how I got the name Eyes on Isles. So that's where that came from.
Oh, that's awesome.
By the way, you may not be listening, Paul, but I don't know if you know, but John's brother also passed away yesterday.
Oh,
His brother Joe.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he had stage 4 cancer at the same time his mother was passing, was dying. So unfortunately, he lost his mother on Christmas Day and he lost his brother yesterday. So our prayers are with him.
Yep. And, thank you, Gary, for coming on. Our thoughts and prayers with John. Nicole, thank you so much. I agree with everyone here. Historic run starting on Thursday. Hopefully, if they get started, they're the cats.
That's the cat that was drinking my milk.
Good cat. Good cat. And remember, folks, at the trade deadline, Lou's going to have close to $8.5 million in cap space. Let's see what the Islanders can do if they ever start playing games again and they start winning. And like I said, let's see some of these other teams come down to earth, and let's see what kind of mayhem we really start seeing in February, in March, and we'll go from there.
The two most important words as an Islander fan: don't panic.
Panics in Bridgeport.
Yes.
Thank you. I knew
And
I
on
liked
that
her.
note, and on that note, we are ending it with that beautiful. Nicole, thank you so much for coming
Thank you
on.
so
Gary,
much.
thanks
It
for
was a
coming
pleasure.
on. Guys, we're going to be on next week. I don't know what we're doing yet. I don't know what guests we're going to have. We'll play it by ear, but I'll let you guys know. Let's go, Islanders, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, well, next Monday I'll be at a hockey game, so forget about me.
Wow.